In 2012, Montpellier were the Ligue 1 champions. Today, they sit rock bottom of the table and face relegation. So we're going to rebuild the club once again to lift the Ligue 1 trophy above their heads, but it won't be easy. After hopefully avoiding relegation, we are going to have to sell our star players until we get onto sound financial footing. We have two young players that we can build around. Joris Chotard is a 22-year-old midfielder who has very high potential, and he's the crown jewel in our squad. But not far behind him is Basir Omaragic, a 21-year-old Swiss centre-back who's already broken into the international team. We're playing a 4-2-3-1, mostly because we don't have enough defenders to play 5 at the back, so our centre-mids are sitting deeper to help defend. Unfortunately though, our first game is away at PSG, and we did really well to keep the scores level until the second half, when PSG were able to flex their muscles and score twice to win the match. We also weren't helped when star boy Chotard was given a straight red card for this crunching challenge. So we spent our £2.5 million transfer budget on Emil Breivik to provide cover in that area of the pitch. But that didn't seem to help. Lens managed to beat us 3-1 at home, Ligue beat us 2-1 at their place, and we suffered a 1-0 defeat away at Toulouse as we had another man sent off for a reckless challenge in his own penalty area. However, things did start to change. We pulled out a couple of draws at home against Rennes and Reims, and then the boys started to get more familiar with our tactics, and we started to win. Out of nowhere, we beat Angers 4-0 at home, with new boy Breivik leading the charge. Right winger Arnaud Nordin scored a hat-trick as we beat Auxerre, and crucially, we thrashed relegation candidate St Etienne 5-1 away from home, which had huge implications. That win takes us out of the bottom 3 with 7 games to go, but 6 of those matches are against teams in the top 10, so there is no guarantee that we stay in 14th and away from the relegation zone. However, we pulled off a miracle win against Lille after going a goal down early on, and secured important draws against Marseille and Nice. Couple that with wins against Nantes, who are below us in the table, we did enough to secure 14th place in the table and avoid relegation after joining the club when we were rock bottom. But we can't celebrate for too long, because next season is going to be incredibly tough. The board are only giving us £7 million to spend, and that is not enough to bring in star quality. So after avoiding relegation, the next phase of our plan is to sell our best players to reinvest into youngsters to develop for the future. But that's also going to be tough, because we've just had our training facilities downgraded. The summer didn't start well, because Burnley inquired about Chotard, so I suggested just above his market value at 25 million, and they came back offering just 7 million. Obviously, we said no to that, but then no other team came in across the summer for him. So instead, we had to sell a lot of squad players to finance transfers, and even that wasn't enough. It meant we couldn't afford our first choice targets, and instead had to sign a mixture of experience, like Renato Tapia in midfield, risky youth prospects like Noah Lamina on the left wing, and loans because we were running out of money. But there is a silver lining. With the surplus transfer budget that we had left over, we were able to invest that in our training facilities, so hopefully that will help the youngsters we signed reach their potential. And we need them to reach their potential because we appear to be having a very average season. Nuno Moreira on the left wing emerged as our leading man early on, scoring 5 goals in 8 games, before fading away. After that, Mikal Tadze had a great run of form, scoring 5 goals in 2 months, before then also fading away and doing nothing. So all in all, the first half of the season has just been average, which is reflected in our mid-table position at the winter break. And the second half of the season was just as strange. This time, striker Akor Adams had a spell of brilliance where everything he touched turned to gold, for a month and a half or so, before dropping back to obscurity. And then our other loanee, Joel Rocker, did the same, although he only really seemed to do it for 3 games, where he was incredible before fading away. So in the end, we finished 9th in the table, which is a huge improvement on last season, but it was just a really boring season, especially with PSG winning the title again. Our current objective is to sell our star players to reinvest into the team, but right now I don't think we have any clear star players. Adams, Moreira and Savenir are the 3 players we own with double-figure goal contributions this season, so they might be worth some money. I'll also look to be selling Chotard and Omaragic again, but based on the lack of interest from last summer, I'm not expecting much this summer. However, on the day the transfer window opened, we accepted a £20 million bid for Shakhtar from Marseille, and a deal worth up to £9.5 million for Akor Adams, who both ended up leaving the club this summer. We really needed that money as well, because the board only gave us £5 million to spend. With our newfound millions, we were able to make Mikhail Tadze's loan permanent, and then bring in a lot of young French players to get better value for money and develop them for the future. Jean-Matteo Bahoya is the player I am most excited about, because I think he could be the star of the future that we need to score 20 goals in a season, which will help us win the league title. Now, it did take him a little while to get going this season, but he scored his first goal in a 4-2 win over Grenoble. He then scored the final goal of the game as we beat Lorient 3-1 away from home, and he got a brace in a huge 5-1 victory against Rennes just before the winter break. But things aren't all going to plan. We are still losing to a wide range of teams. For example, Auxerre beat us 1-0, Strasbourg beat us 2-0, and PSG absolutely thrashed us 7-0 in Paris. So we have a very similar record at the winter break as we did last season, with no signs of improvement. So something has to change. Over the winter break, I'm getting the boys familiar with a 4-3-3 to accommodate two young centre mids who I think can help with our attack. Khalil Fayed is a Montpellier youth prospect who has the makings of a great playmaker, whilst we paid £7 million for Eden Diop from Monaco in summer to get further forward and support the front three. This switch had a positive effect on Bahoya, who found another level. He scored in a 2-0 win over Lyon, a 3-1 win over Nantes, and got the winner in a crucial 1-0 win against Troyes. In fact, he ended up the season with 15 Ligue 1 goals, making him the league's joint 5th top scorer. Another youngster who was also reaping the benefits was Noah Lamina. We signed him last season to play on the left wing, and he was given a chance in the second half of this season, and even ended up scoring in a historic 2-0 victory over the bad guys, PSG. Thanks to an uptick in form, we ended up finishing 7th place in the league and securing ourselves a spot in next season's Europa Conference League. Season 4 started with a bang. Out of nowhere, Newcastle offered £32.5 million for our left back, which rises to £44 million after he plays 20 league matches. A player with these attributes is not worth £44 million, so it was an easy decision to sell. Although, there is an easier decision that all of you guys can make right now. Pressing that subscribe button right now. And it is completely free. It's not going to cost you £44 million. The money is very welcome, seeing as we were only given £13 million to spend this summer. We replaced our left back with Thiago Parente from Benfica, who on paper isn't as well-rounded, but comparing him to Vettel, there's not a whole lot in it. We also ended up selling Omoragic and Nordin, which gave us the capital to not only bring in 6 talented players, but also improve our training facilities to improve our youngsters quicker. But the big sales also mean we've completed step 2 of the plan, and now we need to move towards making it to the top 3 consistently. Which means I don't want to focus on the Conference League too much. But when we managed to beat Fiorentina 5-3 on aggregate in the qualifying rounds, I thought we might be able to go far, especially because we've been given a very kind group of fixtures for the league phase. New right winger Khalil Boudash scored 4 goals in 6 matches, as the young Frenchman was making a name for himself in the squad. He was signed as backup to Tejas Magno, but if he continues like this, we need to start him all the time. Bahoya was also chipping in as we won 5 of our 6 games to qualify as the top seed from the league phase. Maybe we should be focusing on this tournament a little bit more, because Ligue 1 is not going well. Losses to the likes of Monaco, Nice, Lens and PSG means it looks like we're not going to challenge for the top 3 this season. However, in the second half of the season, we actually got worse. We lost to teams way below us in the table like Troyes and Metz, as well as another humiliating defeat against the bad guys, PSG. So by the end of the season, we dropped to 10th in the table, and the only way we can salvage something is by winning the Conference League. In the round of 16, we travelled to Shakhtar Donetsk and lost the first leg 2-1. But when we welcomed them to France, Khalil Boudash scored a brace to ensure we progressed 3-2 winners on aggregate. Jean-Matteo Bahoya was our hero in the quarterfinals, as he scored in both legs to beat the Austrian side Lask 3-1 on aggregate. That meant we had to face off against Danish side AGF in the semi-finals. But despite taking the early lead, the Danes were 3-1 up at half-time. However, a remarkable second-half performance followed as we scored 4 goals to win the first leg away from home 5-3. The duo on the wings, Kyle Budash and Noah Lamina, ensured we won the second leg 3-0 and reach the final. But Crystal Palace will be tough. They have a very strong lineup on paper, which is probably better than ours. And it wasn't long before they were showing us they were the better side on grass as well, as they scored first 9 minutes into the match. Palace were only letting us shoot from distance, and Breivik's effort was the best that we had, as he was denied by the keeper. So at the break, we're behind in a very cagey match. Both teams had chances in the second half. Jefferson Lerma's headed effort was comfortably saved, whereas substitute Mikhail Tadze's effort was parried wide. But in the 84th minute, Khalil Fayed controversially brought down Chadi Riyad on the edge of the penalty area, but the ref and the VAR pointed to the spot. Ismail Assar scored and won the Conference League for Palace. So close, yet so far. It's not all doom and gloom though, as the European money means we have 20 million to spend this summer. And with a very young squad that didn't really perform well last season, we need to bring in some experience. So after selling Magno and a few more fringe players, we brought in 6 experienced guys to help guide our youngsters and be able to send some out on loan. The best of the bunch is Yassine Kechta, who will be our more attacking-minded midfielder. Our plan got off to a great start, as we went unbeaten in our first 7 games. Yassine Kechta became our top scorer in this early stage, as he scored 4 goals in those matches. We beat Auxerre 4-0, Troyes 2-1 away from home, and secured a vital point in a 2-2 draw with Lille. But slowly our results started to dip, and we had some frustrating losses. Toulouse beat us 2-0, Metz beat us 1-0 thanks to some poor defending on our part, and Reims beat us 2-1 with a late goal. Oh, and of course, PSG beat us again. So at the winter break, we find ourselves 6th in Ligue 1, 5 points behind Toulouse in 3rd. But things only got worse in the second half of the season. We lost another 6 games against Lens, Lille, Lyon, Reims, Paris FC and Paris Saint-Germain. So we're only 2 points better off than we were last season as we slide down the table and out of the European spots. So we need a serious rethink over summer. But with just 15 million to spend, we need to be really careful with the money, which is why I splashed 12 million on 19-year-old Argentine striker Walter Diaz, breaking the club's transfer record. But to be fair, he does look very good. We then sold £23 million worth of players to allow us to break the transfer record again. Ben Dos Santos is a 20-year-old right-back joining for £17 million from Vitória in Portugal, and I have high hopes for him. This left us with enough money to sign transfer-listed Datro Fofana from Chelsea for just £8 million to provide cover in attack. But my favourite signing of summer was Mohamed Daramy on a free transfer after he left Reims at the end of his contract. It means we've had to tweak our tactics slightly to be able to fit our new players into the team more effectively. This is the season where I think we're going to make a big leap forwards. However, it was the man intended to be a backup who ended up being the most effective signing. Datro Fofana hit the ground running as he scored past Brest and Metz in the first few games of the season. And when Walter Diaz suffered an injury, he made the striker role his own as he continued to score past the likes of Marseille and Auxerre for our best start to a season yet. But don't worry, we still lost to PSG, who are having an all-time season. At the winter break, we're 3rd, the highest we've ever been, but an unbeaten PSG sits 13 points ahead of us at the top of the table, so I already feel like we can't win the title this season. But our current goal is to just finish in the top 3, and we still have a job to do. Thankfully, Walter Diaz recovered from his injury and made the second half of the season his. A hat-trick against Rennes was his crowning moment, but his goals towards the end of the season really helped us finish strong. We've had our best season yet as we achieve a top 3 position and qualify for the Champions League, but we have a long way to go before we can topple PSG. With the promise of Champions League money, we've been given 26 million to spend, which we topped up with 40 million, potentially rising to 62 when we accepted Bournemouth's non-negotiable offer for Mohamed Daramy. We replaced him with 19-year-old Gregor Jakalic for just £4.5 million from Hajduk Split. Thank you, Croatian clubs, for accepting daylight robbery. After selling a couple more fringe players, we had to make a splash in the transfer window. So we broke our record transfer fee by spending 24 million on Junior Mwanga from Strasbourg to start at centre-back. And then we broke it again by spending 37 million on Quentin Merlin from Marseille to play at left-back. Finally, we convinced Man City to part with young goalkeeper Spike Britt for just £6 million to start between the sticks. Gregor was an instant success at the club and was fast becoming our best player. Before the winter break, he scored 13 goals in 16 Ligue 1 matches from the left wing. However, we didn't have the best record. We still lost 5 times to close rivals in the league, including once again PSG. But everyone else was also losing. So despite being 7th in the table, we're just 3 points off Monaco in the top spots. This could be our season. The Champions League was also going well. We had the beating of teams like PAOK, Besiktas and Basel, but obviously we didn't have enough to beat the likes of Real Madrid, who thrashed us 4-0. Despite that, we still came 7th in the league phase and go straight through to the round of 16. But making the knockouts distracted us from Ligue 1 in the second half of the season. We dropped points against Toulouse and Lens, and then we drew 0-0 with Marseille and Strasbourg, and we could only hold PSG to a 1-1 draw. So with all the excitement of how close things were at the winter break, PSG still managed to claim the title as we finished 3rd. But the Champions League distraction was actually pretty exciting. In the round of 16, we beat Porto away from home 3-0 in the first leg, which was pretty lucky as we lost the second leg 2-0, but we narrowly progressed to the quarterfinals on aggregate. We welcome Juventus to our place and Gregor Jaklish scored the game's only goal. Then in Turin, we scored 3 times to win 4-0 on aggregate and make the final 4 of the competition. But Liverpool might have been a step too far. Away from home, we went 2-0 down as Michael Kayode and Ben Doak scored for Liverpool. But a late goal from Datro Fofana gave us hope of a comeback in France. So when right back Ben Dos Santos scored 12 minutes into the second leg, we knew the win was possible. And Datro Fofana made sure of it. His goal on the stroke of half-time means we win 3-2 on aggregate and reach the Champions League final. But we need to beat Man City, led by Erling Haaland and Jude Bellingham, if we want to win the trophy. We started strong. Less than a minute into the game, we found Breivik on the edge of the area, but his shot was just too powerful. Moments later at the other end of the pitch, the nerves got to Haaland, who missed the target from a great opportunity. This is going to be a tense game. A great pass from Dos Santos into Walter Diaz caught City off guard, and arriving at the end of the cross was Jaklish, who fired us in front. But in our bid to stop Haaland, we totally forgot about Phil Foden. The midfielder was open in the D, and he scored the equaliser. So at the break, it's an incredibly even game. 7 minutes into the second half, Quentin Merlin's cross was cleared by Tommy Doyle, but the ball came back into the middle, and our header goalwards beat the keeper, but also the post, drifting just wide. So once again, we were forced to defend, and whilst we stopped City getting into the penalty area, they didn't need to be in it. Oliver Skipp's shot from distance meant he scored his first goal of the season to give City the lead. With 15 minutes to go, I panicked and made 4 changes, which also caused the team to panic. Breivik had a shot from 40 yards out, although it did need the keeper to stop it going in the back of the net. Former Man City keeper Spike Britt did all he could to deny Man City another goal, saving Smith Rowe's powerful shot and Bellingham's close-range header from a corner. But in the end, it didn't matter. Man City beat us 2-1, and we lose another European final. Thanks to the Champions League run, we have 45 million to spend in Season 8. Our midfield 3 have been lacking for a few years now, so this is the area that we need to fix. And because we've had a few good seasons of finishing in the top 3 in Ligue 1 and having made a Champions League final, this is now the time to move on to the final stage of the plan and topple PSG to win the title. But that will only happen if we can sign some great midfielders, and that is is easier said than done. Ajax want a deal worth up to 67 million for Sivert Mansverk, Brighton want up to 82 million for Jack Hinchelwood, and Palace want an astronomical 105 million for Adam Wharton. So I think we might only be able to sign one star midfielder this season. Luckily for us, Charles de Ketelaere was on the transfer list at Atalanta. So we spent £45 million on him, which is a huge upgrade to our current midfield. And he was seemingly making the big difference. He scored on his debut as we beat Lorient 5-0, and scored another header in his second game as we beat Nantes 2-0. Plus his ability to control the midfield allowed his attacking teammates to play with more freedom. Somehow, Gregor Jakalic was scoring more goals than he was last time out, and even Walter Diaz, who hadn't lived up to the hype from when we bought him, was having his best season yet. But we still can't get the better of PSG, as they scored an 89th minute winner to defeat us 2-1. But we're right there with them at the winter break, just 2 points behind the league leaders. As for the Champions League, we had a pretty good run through the league phase, beating the likes of Midtjylland, SK Rapid, and really frustratingly, PSG. This meant we qualified in the top 8, but faced an early exit as we lost to Arsenal in the quarterfinals. However, this means we can put our full attention on winning Ligue 1. And we did a lot of winning. We beat third place Lens 5-0 at home to open a gap to them, whilst we also stopped Rennes from mounting a charge to the top, as we also beat them 5-0 away from home. Lyon were bested 4-0 in Lyon, thanks to Gregor Jakalic, and we even did the impossible by beating PSG 1-0 as right back Ben Dos Santos scored an incredible looping header. We won 10 games in a row, until it came to an end as we lost 2-1 at home against Monaco. But picking up 30 points in 11 games is incredible. However, PSG did the exact same. The only loss they had was against us. So with 5 games to go, we still sit 2 points behind the Parisians. But there could be a chance, because as we're about to kick off against Nice, PSG were drawing 0-0 with third place Lens at half time. Our match was a big slog, but in the end, we took the lead in the 69th minute, only for Nice to equalise in the 90th minute and break our hearts. But in the 91st minute, Eden Diop's effort from distance just squeezed past the keeper to give us a last gasp victory. And luckily, Lens were able to hold PSG to a draw. So now with 4 games to go, we're top of the table on goal difference. Somehow we have the league's top 3 scorers on our side, as everyone else seems to have forgotten how to score goals. But then, the impossible happened. Reims beat PSG 1-0, giving us the chance to claim a 3-point lead, which we did. Yassine Kuchta scored a brace, whilst Khalil Fayed scored a third in a huge 3-0 victory against Troyes. But winning the title from this position still isn't guaranteed. Our final 3 games are Marseille in 5th, Lens in 3rd, and Reims, who just beat PSG. Marseille were a tough team to crack. The only way to beat them was through a major defensive mistake. At the same time, PSG beat Lyon 2-1 to maintain the 3-point gap with 2 games to go. Our next match was on a Friday night before anyone else played, away at Lens. And although they were the way stronger side with 18 shots to our 9, we were the only side able to score, as Walter Diaz got a goal late on to give us the victory. So now if PSG don't beat Rennes, we win the title. And Rennes held them to a draw, which means we win the Ligue 1 title, completing the rebuild of Ligue 1's worst team. If you enjoyed this video, I know you're going to love how I rebuilt the worst team in La Liga. Some say that is a more difficult challenge because we have to beat not just Real Madrid, but Barcelona as well. To find out how we did it, you can click the video on screen right now.